We begin in a rehabilitation center, where a group of recovering individuals is sitting in a circle sharing their stories. A nurse enters to inform that there is an urgent call for a woman named Darby. She goes to answer the call and is informed by a relative that her mother has deteriorated and is currently in the hospital, accompanied by her sister Devon. Darby understandably worries. Later that night, she discreetly makes a call to her sister Devon, and we find out that their relationship is tumultuous. Devon doesn't even want to see Darby, and Darby doesn't care. She decides to escape the institution by stealing a car and drives away. On the way, she stops by the roadside and we see a flashback of her dark past, where her sister and mother found her in critical condition after an overdose inside a car. Then, back to the present, the officer tells her that all roads are closed because a storm is coming and that Darby must wait at the nearby visitor center. Darby concedes and heads there. Upon arrival, she discovers that there are several other people waiting for the storm to pass as well. She goes to the bathroom and checks the messages her sister sent, basically telling her that she shouldn't go to the hospital. Stressed, Darby takes out a small package of illicit things but decides not to use it. Later, Darby decides to go outside to the parking lot in search of phone signal. At that moment, she hears something. She walks toward the noise and realizes there is a child tied up inside a van. Darby tries to open the door but finds it locked, so she decides to take a photo of the vehicle's license plate and tells the child she will be back before getting into her own car. Darby attempts to call emergency services, but there is no signal, so she returns inside the center. She observes the people around her, realizing that the culprit must be someone in the room. As soon as she sits down, she is introduced to Sandy, the former nurse, and her husband Ed, the former Marine, alongside Jack, the socially awkward guy, and Ash, the charmer. Ed proposes they play a card game to pass the time. Everyone sits in a circle to play, and Darby pretends to make small talk, asking about their backgrounds and where they are going, while actually trying to figure out who the kidnapper is, since the license plate on the back of the van is from Nevada. Darby tenses in her seat when she discovers that Jack is from Nevada. At the same time, Jack is losing the card game they are playing, and it is clear that he is mentally unstable. Darby seizes the opportunity to excuse herself and enters an out-of-service bathroom to send a message to emergency services about the kidnapping incident, and even sends the photo of the license plate. However, she still has no signal. Realizing she needs to take charge of the situation, Darby gets up and removes a board from the wall with a hammer, revealing a hole she can crawl through. She makes her way around and manages to return to the van, this time successfully unlocking the door with a thin metal bar and gets inside. While trying to free the child, she notices the medical alert bracelet on the child's wrist. But then Devon covers herself with a blanket, while Jack begins to speak softly to the child, and we find out that the child's name is Jay. Jack hesitates, realizing something. At this moment, Darby discovers that Jack has a gun tucked in the back pocket. Jack sits back down and begins to talk about a man named Kiff, to whom he is taking Jay. He then leaves the van, claiming he'll grab some snacks for Jay to eat. Realizing they don't have much time, Darby leaves a stylus with Jay and exits the van, returning to the bathroom. Upon reaching the side of the van, Jack notices a set of footprints in the snow and grows suspicious. Meanwhile, a worried Ash starts banging on the bathroom door to check on Darby. But before Darby can explain what is happening, Jack enters. Darby quickly grabs Ash and kisses him. Jack, uncomfortable, leaves, and then Darby starts telling Ash about the girl tied up inside the van, and that Jack must suspect that she now knows. Ash looks concerned. He grabs a nail gun from the toolbox inside the room and formulates a plan. The plan is for Darby to go outside again, this time ensuring that Jack is following her. While Jack is absent, Ash will inform Ed, the former Marine, about the situation. However, as soon as Darby returns to the van, Jay innocently asks where the men who brought her are, indicating there is more than one kidnapper. Darby looks outside and sees Ash and Jack talking. Ash takes the nail gun, while Jack grabs the nail gun. They plan to ambush Darby, but the woman has already escaped. Darby sneaks back into the building, but Ash quickly corners her and takes her phone. He deletes the unsent messages that Darby tried to send to 911 earlier, and opens the messages sent by Darby's sister. He discovers that Darby's family does not like her and does not want her to go to the hospital. Meanwhile, at the entrance, Ed begins to suspect that something is wrong. He goes outside to check the situation. Ash starts questioning Darby, asking intrusive questions about her family. He even asks about how Darby's father died, and the terrified Darby reveals that her father took his own life. He then, in a hostile manner, starts pointing the gun at her while asking which part of the head was hit. Darby calls him a monster, but in protest, he reveals that he is doing this strictly for money, because Jay's father is wealthy and would pay a lot for the safe return of his daughter. He also tells her that Jay suffers from a rare disease, which means she could overdose on adrenaline, so Darby's intervention to save her is not helping. Inside the van, Jay has begun to remove the adhesive tapes that bind her, using the stylus that Darby left with her, just when Ed approaches the van and starts trying to open the door. This time, for some reason, Jay does not make a sound. Returning to Ash and Darby, they are interrupted by Sandy, who asks to speak to Darby alone. Before leaving, Ash threatens Darby, telling her not to tell anyone, otherwise he will kill them all. Terrified, Darby doesn't tell Sandy what is happening, although Sandy notices how shaken she is. Instead, Darby changes the subject by asking about brain aneurysms and if her mother can survive. The two women return to the entrance later and sit together with the men. Not long after, Darby realizes that Jay has untied herself and left the van. Ash and Jack also notice this, so Jack goes outside after the Ed and Sandy, however, still seem completely oblivious. Darby returns to the bathroom, then Ash apologizes and goes after her. Soon, the two begin to fight, and due to Ash's strength, he manages to overpower Darby. He advances to strangle her. Luckily, Jack arrives just in time before Ash can seriously injure Darby. Jack informs that the child slipped away onto the hiking trail and that they need to go after her. The two kidnappers force Darby to go looking for the child with them. As they walk along the trail searching for the child, Darby refuses to cooperate. She points the flashlight in their eyes to surprise them. Shocked, Ash fires his weapon and she dodges, but begins to roll down the hill in the process. Back in the building, Ed and Sandy hear the gunshot and Ed heads outside. Darby crawls to hide while Ash and Jack search for her. Fortunately, she manages to remain out of sight. Meanwhile, Ed comes across an unconscious Jay and quickly takes her inside. Ed and Sandy soon realize that the child is suffering from a medical condition upon seeing the bracelet on her wrist. Darby finally returns and reveals to them what is happening. Ash and Jack shortly arrive at the front of the building and start shouting. Ed blocks the front door with chairs to buy time, and realizing that the two kidnappers are approaching, he yells. The kidnappers back off and discuss whether he is bluffing. On the inside, we find out that Ed is unarmed. The kidnappers devise another tactic. They start yelling that the girl is sick and that they have the medication with them. Inside the location, Sandy, the former nurse, hesitates. She tells the others that the kidnappers are probably right because Jay looks so pale that she could die. Ed and Darby refuse to give in, and Darby reveals that she stole the kidnappers' car keys. Realizing that they have a new bargaining chip, Ed yells to the kidnappers that they are willing to trade the medication for the car keys. Irritated, Ash and Jack go back to the van. However, as they exit, they are not carrying medication. Instead, they bring a gasoline container, indicating that they intend to set the building on fire. Ed instructs Darby to hide all the car keys, for the kidnappers won't kill them if they can't leave the place. Meanwhile, the kidnappers begin pouring gasoline all over the facade of the building. Sandy is palpably terrified. She pulls out a pepper spray to protect herself. As all this happens, Jay wakes up and remembers the lady. Jay and Sandy already knew each other. Then we are taken to a flashback scene, revealing that Sandy works as a maid in Jay's house, and Jay bullies her. We also learn that later, when Jay is being kidnapped and screaming for help, Sandy does nothing to save her. We see a scene where Sandy is on the phone with Ash, who is reprimanding her for not finding the girl's medication, and that Sandy needs to bring the medication so Jay won't die. Back to the present, Sandy screams. She then sprays pepper in Darby's eyes, and the kidnappers finally enter the building. Ash hands Sandy the medication and orders her to take care of the child. After this, Sandy, Ash, and Jack get into a confrontation. We discover that Ash and Jack never planned to return Jay to her parents, and that they don't care about the ransom. In fact, they are part of a malicious scheme and intend to sell Jay to someone else. Sandy is shocked and pleads for them not to do it, but is unable to fight against them, so she says to just take the child and go away, revealing that Darby hid the car keys somewhere in the back. Ed expresses his disagreement, and unfortunately, he is shot. Sandy tries to stop him but is shot as well. Darby tries to reach for the pepper spray that is on the ground, but Ash gets to it first. He approaches Sandy, who is still not dead, and finishes the job. Ash drags Darby and pins her to the wall with the nail gun before approaching Jack, who is crying because he has pepper spray in his eyes. They go to the bathroom to clean Jack up, leaving Darby pinned to the wall. Darby endures the pain and tries to pull her wrist from the wall, but she cannot due to the intense pain. She spots a hammer nearby and tries to reach it, but it is too far away. She then decides to ask Jay for help. Meanwhile, Ash helps Jack remove the pepper spray from his eyes. Jack seems shaken, as he did not expect Ash to kill someone. Jay hands the hammer to Darby, but the kidnappers return to the room before Darby can free herself, so she hides the hammer for now. Ash approaches her and tries to ask again about the location of the car keys. He opens Darby's phone to read the new messages. Then he leans in closer. Darby silently cries and does not respond. It appears that the message Darby sent to emergency services earlier has been delivered, and the police are on their way to the location at this moment. Ash and Jack are now desperate. Ash yanks the child's arm and points the nail gun at her wrist. Seeing this, Darby gives in and reveals that the car keys are buried in the snow outside the bathroom. Ash hands the gun to Jack while heading to fetch the keys. It is evident that Jack is deeply disturbed and does not like all the violence that is occurring. Darby conceives a new idea. She instructs Jay to go to the light switch and turn it off, knowing that Jack isn't violent like Ash and wouldn't harm Jay. Although scared, Jay does as she is told, while Jack begins to panic and shouts for Jay to sit back down. Darby seizes this opportunity to pull out the small bag of powder she has in her pocket and inhale it to ease the pain. As soon as Jay manages to turn off the lights, Darby uses this chance to free the nail from her wrist while Jack struggles to restrain Jay. When he turns the lights back on, Darby surprises him. Ash re-enters the room and finds Darby holding Jack at gunpoint. Ash appears nervous. It is clear that he cares for Jack. Jay rushes at him to take the nail gun from his hands, but the action causes Ash to fire accidentally. Guilty and shaken, Ash rushes to aid Jack, while Darby and Jay sneak out and get into Darby's car. Ash tries to help Jack recover, but the fall caused the nail to penetrate deeper into his head, causing his death. Now that Jack is dead, Ash becomes furious. He exits and starts shooting at the car. He manages to blow a tire, causing Darby to lose control and crash. As Darby tries to compose herself, Ash decides to set the building on fire. As Ash approaches Darby's car, a police officer arrives and demands that he back away from the vehicle. Darby is now fully aware. She arms herself with a screwdriver and grabs the gun. Darby opens the car door and shoots her enemy. After this, the police officer grows suspicious of her. She tries to explain what is going on, but the officer shoots her in the abdomen. Ash, still alive, grabs the gun and shoots the officer. He then stands up and aims the gun at Darby. Nearby, he notices that the officer is still alive, so he grabs the nail gun and begins shooting him until he dies. He then takes the police officer's gun and returns to kill Darby. But then Darby stabs him in the throat with the screwdriver, killing him. With what little strength remains, Darby crawls through the snow in search of the fallen officer's radio. She calls for help just before passing out. In the next scene, Darby is back at the rehabilitation center, and we find out that more than a month has passed since the incident. We see a child's drawing on the wall as she returns to her room. This shows that she has kept in touch with Jay since the incident. A nurse knocks on her door to inform her that she has a visitor. Darby heads to the lobby and finds her sister Devon sitting there, ready to mend their relationship. Darby smiles with relief, knowing that her life will not continue to be lived alone.